4. That is how many players were drafted for Elias Pettersson in the 2017 NHL Draft. Elias Pettersson, as I record this video, has 107 points in 110 career games. And to emphasize just how insane these numbers are, if we take a look back at players drafted within the last decade, since 2010, only 3 players have a better point per game average than Elias Pettersson. These players being Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov, and Austin Matthews. Which means that Pettersson has a better point per game average than other notable names such as Nathan MacKinnon, David Pastrnak, Leon Draisaitl, and Jack Eichel. And if you take into consideration the development curve of an elite forward in the NHL, Pettersson, only being in his second season at the age of 21, still has a significant room to improve on a Vancouver Canucks team that is still growing and getting better as each game goes on. So why did 4 teams pass on Elias Pettersson? Well, it turns out this is actually a pretty interesting story, so in today's video we're going to explore exactly that story, as well as take a look at the 4 players drafted before Pettersson and how well they've been doing so far in their career. And before I start off this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button for some more awesome hockey content. Elias Pettersson, born in Sundsvall, Sweden, grew up in a hockey family, competing alongside of his brother Emil, who is also a great hockey player. Elias Pettersson played his entire minor hockey career within the Timrå system, and has always displayed high-end skill throughout every level of hockey he's played in. And Pettersson really made a name for himself when he got the call up to Timrå's Super Elite team, where he registered 13 points in his first 6 appearances in a low-scoring league as a 16-year-old. Pettersson then went on to play in Allsvenskan, where he put up a very impressive 9 points in 25 games in a very limited role. Pettersson also then saw his first U18 tournament, where he played exceptionally well and took home the silver medal. And heading into Pettersson's draft year, Elias started the season playing in Allsvenskan, and if you guys aren't totally familiar with Allsvenskan, it's a second-tier Swedish professional league, and I felt like at this time, Allsvenskan as a league was not getting the proper exposure and just, I guess, respect compared to the SHL. And of course, its Canadian counterparts being, I guess, the CHL for draft-eligible prospects. And this season, Elias would take on a much bigger role, playing alongside of Jonathan Dahlin, and Pettersson played exceptionally well, putting up nearly a point per game with 41 points in 43 games, where he finished 9th in scoring in the entire league against men. And this point production obliterated all other draft eligibles coming from Allsvenskan, not just this season though, but in modern day NHL history. Elias was already displaying all the traits of a franchise centerman who had tremendous upside. And this is where we see just explosion from Pettersson's development. Pettersson went on to put on an absolute clinic in the SHL, eclipsing scoring records that have been held for decades by other famous names such as, Henrik Zetterberg, the Sedins, Marcus Naslund, where he put up an extremely impressive 24 goals, 56 points, and 44 games in his rookie campaign. And then took home the SHL championship as the playoff MVP, where he put up an astounding 10 goals, 19 points, and 13 playoff appearances. Just insane. Pettersson also took home a truckload of hardware this season, where he won the SHL scoring championship as a teenager, Rookie of the Year, SHL Forward of the Year, Swedish Player of the Year, SHL's Most Valuable Player, and just many more accolades. And Pettersson ended this prolific season by putting the cherry on top by taking home the gold medal at the World Cup for Team Sweden. Pettersson then broke into the NHL and really just did not skip a beat, as he put up an insane 10 goals in his first 10 NHL appearances. Elias then went on to rack up 66 points in 71 games, so just under point per game, countless highlight reel goals, and took home the Calder Trophy just in a prolific rookie campaign. So now let's take a look at the 4 players that were drafted for Elias Pettersson in the 2017 NHL Draft. At number 4, the Colorado Avalanche drafted Cale Makar, an elite offensive defenseman coming to the AJHL. And Makar definitely has a very interesting backstory, as he actually opted to play for the Brooks Bandits in the AJHL, which is actually a rank below the WHL, and because of this, Cale would receive a lot less exposure and would actually be criticized by scouts for playing against weaker competition, even though Makar had the toolset of being an offensive superstar on the blue line. But Makar did choose this route so he could play college hockey, where he dominated in the NCAA. Winning a gold medal for Team Canada, where he had an exceptional tournament, as well as winning the Hobey Baker Award in his final season with UMass. And Makar has already proven to be a franchise-type defenseman who has tremendous offensive upside. He has 29 points in 31 games this season, and some people will argue that Makar would be ranked number 1 in a 2017 NHL redraft. And to that, I would disagree. Not to discredit Makar, I think he's an exceptional player, but I do believe that Pettersson's career so far has been more impressive as he plays a much larger role on a weaker Canucks team. Not to take away from Makar, he's proven to be a foundational piece for the Avalanche blue line, and obviously just a phenomenal player. And next with the Dallas Stars, and they drafted Miro Heiskanen. Coming into his draft year, he was being praised for his elite two-way game and puck-moving ability. Many people actually argue that Heiskanen is actually the better player between him and Makar, as he does have a better two-way game, and the fact that Miro is just overlooked. And I definitely agree with that last part, in that Miro Heiskanen is definitely very underrated. He has the toolset of being an elite top 2 defenseman in the NHL, and already has tremendous offensive upside from a very young age. In his draft year, he had good production in Liga and really made a name for himself as he put up 12 points in 7 games for Finland's U18 team, where he led that team to winning a gold medal. And Miro this season has been playing really well with 22 points in 38 games and has shown flashes of just brilliance while also playing a strong defensive game. At number 2, the Philadelphia Flyers drafted Nolan Patrick. And heading into the 2017 NHL draft, most scouts actually believe that Nolan was the number 1 pick, as he had good size, good skill, scoring upside, and he was really reminiscent to a lot of scouts of a player like Jonathan Toews. And Patrick was actually only a few days off from being eligible for the 2016 NHL draft, where he actually had 102 points in the 2016 NHL season, a season before his draft year, which is obviously very impressive. And in Nolan's draft year, he battled with a lot of injuries, but he still put up 46 points in 33 games. And Patrick's transition into the NHL has not been as eventful as the number 2 pick would probably demonstrate, but he has shown flashes of being a very good two-way top 6 talent. In his first season, he put up 30 points in 73 games and then followed up his rookie campaign with 31 points in 72 games, so we see some progression. However, Nolan has yet to play a single game yet this year as he battles a migraine disorder sprung from concussion history. Now, of course, this is very unfortunate, and I hope he takes as much time as he needs to recover. Obviously, the Flyers are in no rush to get Patrick back in the lineup because, of course, concussions are nothing to mess around with. And with the number 1 pick in the 2017 NHL draft, the New Jersey Devils selected Nico Hischier. And Hischier was actually a pretty big riser within this draft, as he really made a name for himself as he displayed dominance in the World Juniors, putting up 4 goals, 7 points in 5 games as a 17-year-old, and he really put Switzerland that year on the map. He then went on to have a very good season in the Q, putting up 86 points in 57 games, which ended up earning him the number 1 overall selection. And Hischier has definitely been an excellent player in the NHL. His transition hasn't been overwhelming, but it's definitely been very promising. 20 goals in his rookie campaign, and to me, Hischier is someone who can put up, 70, 80 points, and he's shown really good development and has played very well in every season thus far. The 2017 NHL draft was just a very odd draft. Not only, I guess, as we look back at it today, but even at the time, most scouts, most teams had no clue, what order to go in. Most analysts did assume that Patrick and Hischier would be within the top 2, but after that, it was really just anybody's guess. And what really just blows my mind is that there were scouts within this draft that had Elias Pettersson going in at the tail end of the first round, if not the second round. And that just blows my mind. Especially when general managers and scouts were already shaking their heads after passing up on David Pastrnak, who also played in Allsvenskan, and Pettersson had a much more impressive year with better production than Pastrnak in his draft year, and yet teams were still passing up on Pettersson, who was showing all the qualities of being a franchise player. And Jim Benning has received a lot of criticism for his signings, but his drafting has really just been on another level. He sent scouts to watch Pettersson 90 times in his draft year, and they really keyed in and just knew that Pettersson had the upside of a superstar. So why? Why did the other 4 teams pass on Elias Pettersson? Well, to start with, the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars were in need of drafting a high-end defenseman. And when Makar and Miro Heiskanen are both on the board, that is definitely not a bad decision whatsoever, as Makar and Heiskanen have both turned into all-stars in their own right. But for the Devils and Flyers and other teams that did not cue into Pettersson's upside, how could something so obvious just get overlooked? Well, for one, Elias Pettersson decided it would be best for his development to play more minutes in Allsvenskan rather than playing in the SHL, which would give him much more exposure as well as the ability for scouts to judge his talent easier. As there's definitely been a larger shift within the past couple years where players aren't as afraid to play where they want rather than succumbing to moving and playing in a league just to gain more exposure. Because most scouts do believe that if Pettersson did come to the CHL, he would have dominated and would have been the clear number 1 pick. And the next reason is just Pettersson's size, not his height, but his weight. Because Pettersson at the age of 17 had a massive growth spurt where he went from being under 6 feet tall to growing to 6'2". So he got taller, but he didn't necessarily add in the weight to compensate. And in his draft year, he weighed 160 pounds, so obviously a very thin player. And the weird thing is, though, is he had the height, and usually weight for a young player like Pettersson just comes on naturally as you break into the league, you get stronger, and it's just something that's going to come with time. So I've never really understood how this was a big underlying issue, as Pettersson hasn't really had any issues with his weight so far in the NHL. I mean, I do believe that he would become a more dominant player if we were to be like 180 pounds. But Pettersson's weight, especially in this modern game, has definitely not been a detrimental flaw whatsoever. And lastly, scouts were worried that Pettersson was just being carried by his teammates, especially Jonathan Dahlin. And without him, Pettersson would not succeed without the success of his teammates. And that was just a crazy assumption that was proved to be very inaccurate, as Pettersson without Dahlin dominated the SHL right after. And he's proven to be a player that not only can carry a team, but elevates all his teammates around him. And we are already seeing a superstar in the making who has some of the best hockey IQ in the entire NHL. I've been seeing huge progress from Pettersson's game, more consistent, more physical, stronger, and Pettersson has been developing a mold of someone who can not only put the puck in the net, but of a two-way superstar who can also play just a complete game. And as he continues to get stronger, and as the Canucks just get better as a team, Pettersson has tremendous upside to keep improving upon the player he already is today, which is a pretty scary thought. Anyways guys, that is it for my video today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. Thank you guys so much for all the support. It's been awesome. I really appreciate it all. Hope you guys had a great break. See you guys later.